Hey everybody, today on Political Access we've got another hypothetical matchup. This time it's going to be AOC for the Democrats up against Chuck Grassley for the Republicans. This is another one suggested to me in the comments. It's kind of goofy, but we're going to try to do it anyway. Chuck Grassley, U.S. Senator from Iowa. He's approaching 90 years old. AOC, she's in the U.S. House from New York, much younger, so there's an age dynamic here at play, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but like with a lot of these matchups, there are different ways you can interpret this for different results, and I view Chuck Grassley as the more establishment, safer choice, kind of like Joe Biden for the Democrats. AOC, she's more unpredictable and more untested statewide and nationally. She would probably get a lot of the progressive support. However, I think a lot of progressives actually think she's cozied up way too much to the establishment and they're disappointed with her. So it's going to be mixed results. She's going to be portrayed as scary. She's made controversial statements. That's all going to come out. But on policy, she would have some strengths, mostly on economics. Chuck Grassley, he's not really all that exciting. He hasn't totally alienated the Trump base, so he's going to get some of that vote. He's going to get some of the suburban vote because people know his name. He's probably trusted, but he's going to have some detractors as well. Some people think he was too friendly to Trump. So those are some of the factors that go into this. But we'll talk more about it at the end. So we'll start in Alaska, and that's going to be safe for Grassley. Hawaii, safe for AOC. Back up to the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, safe for AOC. I don't think she would have much trouble there. Next state, Nevada. That's tricky. I do think working class voters would tend to want to prefer a progressive Democrat on economics, but I think outside of that, a lot of voters in the middle, I think they would actually just come back to Chuck Grassley because he's going to seem more level-headed and more of the safer choice. So I did go with a tilt for Chuck Grassley, but it's close. It could go either way. Idaho, Utah, safe for Grassley. How about Arizona? That's a classic Republican state. It's drifted away from them, but Chuck Grassley, he would probably be the right guy, even though he's pretty old, to bring it back to the Republican column. I have it as a lean for Grassley, but probably only low single digits. Montana, Wyoming, safe for Grassley. Colorado, that'll be high single digits for AOC. New Mexico, that'll crack under 5 points, leans for AOC. Back up to North Dakota and South Dakota, safe for Grassley. Nebraska at large, safe for Grassley. The 2nd district, that's the much bluer district. In this matchup, I do think those voters, I think they would go for Grassley by a leans margin. But again, low single digits. Kansas, Oklahoma, safe for Grassley. How about down in Texas? Well, this one I went back and forth on the margin. It is going to go to Chuck Grassley, and I kept it at a likely, and I could see this getting up over 10 points. But then at the same time, you could go the other way and say AOC activates a lot of new voters, and it gets down to a leans. Back up to Minnesota, I think this will get under 5. Leans for AOC. How about Chuck Grassley's home state of Iowa? That'll crack double digits, safe for Grassley. Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, safe for Grassley. Let's go up to Wisconsin. This one I think is a good state for Chuck Grassley to be able to do better than someone like Donald Trump did in 2020. He might not get out all those Trump voters, but enough of the voters in the suburbs I think would be willing to come out for Grassley, and he would win it by a leans margin, probably 1 to 2 points. Illinois, safe for AOC. Michigan, that's going to be tilt for AOC. Could go either way. I thought the Rust Belt working class voters, enough of them would care about the economics to keep that in the Democratic column. Indiana, safe for Grassley. Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, safe for Grassley. Let's go down to Florida. Here AOC would probably be painted as a socialist, and I think she's going to lose it. I think she'd lose it pretty bad. I just quite don't think it would get to double digits. Chuck Grassley, he's not really going to be all that appealing either, but I think he would win it by a likely margin, probably high single digits. Let's go one state north to Georgia. This used to be a pretty solid red state. Now it's a struggle for the Republicans, but I think Chuck Grassley, he's not really flashy, but I think he would get the job done enough in the Atlanta suburbs, and he would win it by a leans margin. South Carolina, safe for Grassley. North Carolina, that'll be about 5 to 6 points, likely for Grassley. Let's go to Ohio. This will be high single digits. 9 points, possibly could get to 10, likely for Grassley. West Virginia, safe for Grassley. Let's go up to Maine at large. This is a little tricky, but I do have it right at about 5.5 points, likely for AOC. The 1st district, that's bluer, that still goes safe for AOC. The 2nd district, that's redder, that would go likely for Grassley. I think that's an interesting state. Some of those voters would actually be enthused to come out for AOC, but then there are some of those independent swing voters in the middle that would view her as too extreme, and they would rather come out to vote against her and support Grassley. Next state is New Hampshire. This is a tough call, and it's usually tough for the Republicans. I can't guarantee AOC can't win it, but I did settle on a tilt for Chuck Grassley. Now we have the blue states: Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Washington, D.C. all safe for AOC. Some of those margins are harder to predict. I do think some of them could get to low double digits, depending on the kind of campaign AOC runs. Now we've got Pennsylvania, another tricky state. It's borderline, could go either way. Depending on how you see the turnout going, it's up for grabs. But to make a long story short, I settled on a tilt for Grassley. And now the last state here is Virginia, and this is right about 5 points. I could see it getting down to a leans, but I do have it as a likely for AOC. And there's your final map. That's 302 for Chuck Grassley, 236 for AOC. Grassley pulls it out in seemingly convincing fashion, but several of these states are pretty borderline. Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, even Wisconsin and Georgia. Those are usually the states, including Arizona, where everything is on the line. So that's the way I interpreted this. I think AOC has become more of a celebrity type of politician. Some of you might disagree with that. And as I said at the beginning, I do think a lot of actual progressives are disappointed with her, and she's been far too cozy with the establishment. Some of them might be turned off by her. Now, I think that she would probably try to court them, but her record speaks for itself. She's just not the firebrand she was prior to getting into politics and shortly thereafter. Now, Chuck Grassley, he's not really going to excite anybody. But as I said, I kind of view him as Joe Biden. Voters in the middle, swing voters, independents, enough of them, especially in the suburbs, they're going to come out and say, Grassley, he's level-headed enough for them to support. Now, cultural issues, I think that's going to be AOC's weakness. She's made far too many statements that would be unpalatable about social justice and identity politics. And if she tries to run on policy positions to back up those statements, I think that would turn off some voters. Now, Chuck Grassley, he's going to have to answer for abortion. That's a social and cultural issue that more so helps the Democrats, but there's a million different issues out there. Economics and healthcare, that's going to benefit AOC. So those Rust Belt workers, I think they could go either way. And Chuck Grassley's age, that is definitely a factor. Being 90 years old, that's not going to be a strength at all. AOC, though, with her being so young, that could hurt her in the other direction. Some people might think she doesn't have enough experience, and other people might like that. She'd probably get out a lot of the younger voters. Grassley would get out a lot of the older voters. So there's different paths you could take. Some of you are going to say, Grassley, there's no chance he could win all these states, given his age, given some things he said, given him being a little too cozy with Trump, given his low level of charisma and low energy. I can understand that. And then some of you might say AOC would definitely get wiped out even more than this. She's far too crazy to get Florida and Texas down to likely margins, and she would do worse in Nevada, Virginia, Michigan. I can understand that route as well. You're never going to please everybody in these kinds of hypotheticals. There's plenty of different factors that could sway this either way. It really does depend on which issues they actually want to run on. That I think would be interesting, but for now, this is the map that I settled on. Let me know in the comments, do you mostly agree with this map, or did I get it completely wrong? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.